While California state agencies still seem unwilling to accept SpaceX's proposal to increase Falcon 9 rocket launches from 36 to 50 times per year at Vandenberg Air Force Base, the U.S. Air Force, the agency directly managing the launch pads in California, has recently done something astonishing for SpaceX that neither the California government nor anyone else could have anticipated. They have authorized SpaceX to proceed with expansion plans at Vandenberg Space Force Base, which will double the launch frequency on the West Coast and allow Falcon Heavy rockets to fly from California. This truly came as a bucket of cold water poured on the California state government, leaving them speechless. So, why did the U.S. Air Force make such a surprising decision? How will the California government react to this decision? Keep in mind that they have no fondness for Elon Musk whatsoever. Let's find out on today's episode of Alpha Tech. Last week, the U.S. Air Force issued a draft environmental impact statement, reviewing SpaceX's proposed modifications to Space Launch Complex 6 at Vandenberg. The main points of this request include three key items. 1. Modifying the Launchpad to support launches of both Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. 2. Constructing 2 new landing pads near SLC-6. 3. Increasing SpaceX's permitted launch frequency from Vandenberg from 50 to 100 launches annually. Yes, you heard that right, not an increase from 36 to 50 Falcon rocket launches, but all the way up to 100 launches. California officials are probably fuming right now, realizing their attempts to restrict SpaceX were not only ineffective, but actually backfired. SpaceX is now allowed to launch even more than originally proposed. The conflict between the state of California and SpaceX erupted back in October 2024 when the California Coastal Commission, CCC, rejected a proposal from the U.S. Air Force to increase the annual Falcon 9 launches by SpaceX from 36 to 50 at Vandenberg Air Force Base in Santa Barbara County. The CCC cited environmental concerns such as sonic booms affecting wildlife and public access to the coastline. They also questioned whether SpaceX's launches, mostly commercial Starlink satellites, 80 to 87% being non-military payloads, qualified as federal activities exempt from state permits. Some commissioners, such as Gretchen Newsom, explicitly mentioned Musk's political activity, including his support for Donald Trump and controversial posts on X about Hurricane Helene and FEMA, saying these factors influenced their decision. Unwilling to accept this, SpaceX filed a federal lawsuit in Los Angeles, accusing the CCC of political bias and violating Musk's freedom of speech by punishing the company for his personal views. The CCC countered that SpaceX hadn't demonstrated any harm, especially since the Air Force intended to proceed with launches regardless of the vote. However, that was just a pretext for the CCC to hinder SpaceX's growth and, indirectly, Elon Musk's increasing influence in both economic and political spheres. What they forgot is that their actions effectively placed a roadblock in the way of the United States' national security strategy. The United States has long recognized that access to space is a critical national and global interest. Lacking the necessary space capabilities in orbit undermines the core strategies of the U.S. Space Force. Low Earth orbit weather satellites, intelligence systems, global communications capabilities, and components of newly developed constellations are entirely dependent on the West Coast spaceport at Vandenberg. The CCC restrictions jeopardize our entire nation and could even lead to loss of life. Denying the increase in launch frequency from Vandenberg hands Russia and China a major military victory, without those adversaries having to commit any of their own military resources. For the past 30 years, the U.S. has maintained a leading position in space, ensuring that space remains freely and widely accessible. This has supported the robust growth of both domestic and international economies, as well as critical services such as GPS, satellite television, weather forecasting, and remote sensing. However, external threats are increasingly on the rise. Space is no longer an absolutely safe domain. Countries like China and Russia have developed technologies capable of destroying satellites through various means: ground-based attacks, orbital strikes, jamming, lasers, and more. In response, the U.S. Space Force, USSF, is pursuing a strategy of affordability and flexibility. focusing on the widespread use of commercial satellites and expanding space capabilities. Having multiple options allows the U.S. to respond quickly and flexibly to emerging threats. The primary mission of the USSF is to prevent conflict in space and ensure stability for military, economic, and social functions. Space is more vulnerable than ever, not just for the U.S., but also for nations and businesses around the world. If critical systems like GPS or satellite communications were disrupted, the consequences would be severe. Therefore, America must have a robust space defense system, and Vandenberg Base in California plays a crucial role due to its ideal location for polar orbit launches. Vandenberg is currently under the management of the USSF and plays a key role in defending American and allied interests, including commercial systems that support communication and tactical surveillance. In just 5 years, the USSF has shifted from traditional systems to more agile small satellite constellations and rapidly integrated commercial solutions like Starlink and TAC-SRT, tactical surveillance, reconnaissance, and tracking. This has led to a surge in launch demand not only for military purposes, but also for humanitarian and emergency missions like natural disaster response. To meet the new strategic demands, the number of annual launches from Vandenberg needs to increase from 50 to at least 100 in the near future. Yet, in reality, the CCC has never been fully on board with this. That's why state and federal authorities must work together to reach a compromise ensuring that launches protect the environment while also meeting national security objectives. Ultimately, it's crucial to understand that systems like Starlink and TAC-SRT are no longer just commercial ventures. They've become essential components of the U.S. defense strategy. California Governor Gavin Newsom understands this as well. Space must remain free and open to all, and to make that happen, facilities like Vandenberg must be allowed to operate effectively, especially during this critical period. So, what does SpaceX need to do to expand its operations in California? SpaceX received a lease agreement from the Air Force effective April 2023. To support Falcon rocket launches, SpaceX proposed to renovate the existing horizontal integration facility, similar to the facility at Launch Complex 39A at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, along with additional transport routes to the Launchpad, commodity storage tanks, and other ground support equipment. An alternative proposal would include all other components, but would involve SpaceX constructing a new 62,000 square foot HIF north of the Launchpad. The overhaul of the ground systems includes 143,000 square feet of commodity storage for items such as liquid oxygen, RP-1 rocket fuel, nitrogen, helium, water, and other substances. The proposed action is needed to meet current and near-term U.S. government space launch requirements from the Western Range, specifically for medium and heavy lift launches to polar, geostationary, and other orbits less reliably available elsewhere, without compromising current launch capabilities, states the summary of the Draft Environmental Impact Statement, EIS. The proposed action is also needed to expand launch capacity by returning heavy lift launch capability to the Western Range and to fulfill, in part, 10 U.S.C. Section 2276A, Commercial Space Launch Cooperation. This heavy lift capability will partly come from launches of SpaceX's Falcon Heavy rockets. Meanwhile, ULA is currently upgrading the Space Launch Complex 3 East, SLC-3E, for use with its Vulcan rocket, which is also heavy lift capable of using up to 6 solid rocket boosters. The estimated launch cadence between SpaceX's current West Coast pad at Space Launch Complex 4 East, SLC-4E, and the upgraded SLC-6 would be 70 to 11 Falcon 9 launches in 2026, with 1 Falcon Heavy launch from SLC-6 for a total of 82 launches. That figure is projected to rise to 70 to 25 Falcon 9 launches in both 2027 and 2028, along with 5 Falcon Heavy launches each of those years. The proposed accelerated cadence would cover both SLC-4E and SLC-6. It would also allow for up to 12 landings annually at Landing Zone 4 from 2025 to 2028, and up to 12 landings annually at SLC-6 from 2026 to 2028. The 2 new landing pads at SLC-6 would be 280 feet in diameter, each surrounded by a 60-foot gravel buffer. The total area of the landing zones would be about 16 acres. In addition, there would be a 50-foot wide flame trench to the south of the pad, connecting to the existing trench at SLC-8, which is used by Northrop Grumman for launching Minotaur 4 rockets. For launch preparation, the proposal would allow up to 50 static fire tests per year between SLC-4E and SLC-6. It would also permit launches from both pads on the same day. The public comment and review period for the draft EIS runs for 45 days from May 23rd to July 7th. The final EIS is expected in fall 2025, with a record of decision potentially issued no sooner than 30 days after the final EIS is released. The EIS includes water usage at SLC-6 is expected to be around 1.5 million gallons per Falcon Heavy launch. About 200,000 gallons would be needed for each Falcon 9 launch for the Deluge system, compared to approximately 70,000 gallons for each launch at SLC-4E. The draft EIS states, more water is needed at SLC-6 because the existing flame trench is significantly larger than at SLC-4, thus requiring more water to achieve the same operational goal of reducing vibration beneath the vehicle. In its analysis, the Air Force determined that the water usage at SLC-6 would not have a significant impact on the San Antonio Creek watershed, and therefore would not result in significant effects on surface or groundwater resources. They also stated that SpaceX would use so-called best management practices to prevent any major impact on wetlands. Regarding noise from both launches and sonic booms during land-based booster landings, the FAA determined that the estimated maximum day-night average sound level, CDNL, using C-weighted measurements, would be 58.0 decibels C, below the FAA's significant impact threshold of 60 decibels C. Regarding wildlife impacts, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service determined that, with continued species monitoring, modifications to SLC-6 and increased Falcon launches would not be likely to jeopardize the continued existence of a federally listed threatened or endangered species or result in the destruction or adverse modification of federally designated critical habitat resources. In addition, these measures would decrease the potential for long-term habitat and species loss, as well as adverse effects on reproductive success, mortality rate, or ability to sustain minimum population levels such that there would be no significant impact, the draft EIS stated. The document stated that the proposed action's impacts may affect, but not likely to adversely affect, Endangered Species Act listed fish species, sea turtle species, and the humpback whale critical habitat. Texas just took a bold step with SpaceX that left California's governor completely stunned. After clashing with California over regulations and politics, Elon Musk moved SpaceX's headquarters to Texas and built an entire city, Starbase. And now, with the full backing of the Texas governor, he's pushing boundaries like never before. It's about turning the birthplace of Starship into a fast-growing tech capital where nothing stands in the way of perfecting this beast to make the Mars dream real. So, what exactly did Texas just do? In July 2024, news broke that SpaceX, the aerospace giant based in Hawthorne, had already begun relocating to South Texas. The move shocked the local space startup scene, as many smaller companies weren't just losing a neighbor, they were losing the gravitational pull that had attracted talent, investors, and attention. To California, this wasn't just another company moving out. It was the loss of a crown jewel. When a giant like SpaceX leaves, the whole ecosystem shakes. In the end, Elon Musk's decision to move SpaceX's headquarters to Texas was a no-brainer. Texas welcomed SpaceX with open arms, offering fewer regulatory hurdles and strong support from state officials, perfect for scaling up at Starbase, where the Starship program is roaring to life. California's strict rules and high costs just couldn't compete. Texas has also fueled Musk's bigger dreams. Back in March 2021, he posted on X about his vision, creating the city of Starbase, Texas. With state backing for SpaceX's growth, from tax breaks to a warm welcome for the HQ move, Texas is helping Musk inch closer to turning that bold idea into reality, even if the city of Starbase is still a work in progress. And now, in 2025, that dream has officially come true. The vote to turn Starbase into a recognized Type C city took place on May 3, 2025. According to the Cameron County Elections Department, the results were clear: 212 votes in favor, just 6 against, out of 283 eligible voters. Only 143 yes votes were needed to pass. With the results confirmed, Cameron County will wrap up the certification process within 2 weeks, and a judge will issue the final order making it official. Elon Musk couldn't hide his excitement. He confirmed the news on X, writing, "Starbase, Texas is now a real city." Behind Musk's success, Texas played a starring role, doing things so openly supportive, it probably made California officials furious. In December 2024, SpaceX filed a petition to hold an election for creating the city of Starbase. The request was sent to Cameron County Judge Eddie Trevino, and just 3 months later, he swiftly verified and approved it, allowing the vote to happen as early as May. But that's not all. Texas lawmakers, like Senator Adam Hinojosa, went even further. He introduced a bill to transfer weekday beach closure authority at Boca Chica from Cameron County to the future city of Starbase, aiming to simplify rocket launch operations. The bill has already passed the Texas Senate and is now awaiting a vote in the House. Becoming an official city brings huge advantages for SpaceX. Now, they'll have the power to manage their own urban planning, issue building permits, and handle zoning without having to go through Cameron County's red tape. That means SpaceX can move faster in building housing for up to 3,500 potential employees, plus the infrastructure and amenities, like schools and hospitals, needed to support a growing workforce. More importantly, if the new bill proposed by Senator Adam Hinojosa passes, SpaceX would gain full authority to close off Boca Chica Beach and State Highway 4 on weekdays, shifting that power from Cameron County to the city of Starbase. That would make it way easier for SpaceX to lock down the area during rocket launches, especially as they plan to ramp up from just 5 launches a year to as many as 25. No more filing requests with the county court. Less red tape, more flexibility, and full control over their launch schedule. To get this kind of support, the bond between SpaceX and the Texas government must be incredibly strong, stronger even than what they had in California. And that kind of relationship didn't just pop up overnight. SpaceX has been in Texas since 2003 with its testing sites. Their involvement kicked off when they took over the McGregor site from Beale Aerospace, a former rocket company. Although McGregor had been dormant, it already had rocket engine test stands. Exactly what SpaceX needed, and unlike California, where building everything from scratch would have cost a fortune, Texas made it easy to get things moving. McGregor quickly became the hub for SpaceX's rocket engine testing. SpaceX's move in Texas took a huge leap forward in August 2014 when the company chose Boca Chica, which would later be renamed Starbase, as its private launch site. At first, the site was meant for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy launches, but by early 2018, SpaceX shifted gears. They decided to focus Starbase exclusively on their next big project, Starship. Around the same time, Cameron County jumped in to help push the aerospace industry in the area forward. They set up the Cameron County Spaceport Development Corporation, CSPDC, to support projects like SpaceX's launch site. The council quickly got to work, teaming up with SpaceX to make sure everything from infrastructure to land planning was in place. In May 2015, they transferred 25 parcels of land to SpaceX, setting the stage for things like event parking down the line. It was a huge move, and in many ways, it felt like the warmest welcome SpaceX could have gotten since starting up in Texas. Local officials, such as Cameron County Commissioner Alex Dominguez and Sofia Benavides, strongly supported financial and tax incentives for SpaceX, seeing it as an opportunity to boost the local economy, which had high poverty and unemployment rates. When it comes to taxes, I'm sure Musk saw Texas as a major win. California, known for its high tax rates, has been a financial burden for businesses like SpaceX and their employees. The state has a corporate tax rate of 8.84% on profits, one of the highest in the country. On top of that, there's a progressive personal income tax that ranges from 1% to 13.3%, the highest in the U.S. This clearly affects SpaceX employees' take-home pay. Now, Texas, it's a whole different story. They don't have a traditional corporate income tax. Instead, they impose a franchise tax, but only on businesses making over $2.47 million a year. Of course, there are still other costs to consider, but overall, if SpaceX had built Starbase in California, they'd be looking at hundreds of millions, if not billions, more in construction and operating costs. Moving to Texas was a smart move, no doubt about it. In return for this support, SpaceX and its contractors contributed over $500,000 to the election campaigns of about 24 local officials since 2014, further solidifying their political ties with Texas leaders. On the education front, Musk, through his charity, the Foundation, donated $100 million to establish and launch a new K-12 school in Austin, focused on science, technology, engineering, and math. Once fully operational, the school will aim to create a pipeline for the next generation of talent to contribute to the nation's space and rocket industry. Since the construction of Starbase, SpaceX has created thousands of jobs for full-time employees and contractors from Texas, bringing much-needed employment to the Rio Grande Valley, a region with a poverty rate of around 30%. This economic boost, though not without environmental controversy, has turned Starbase into a new engine of growth. At one point, Texas Governor Greg Abbott proudly declared, "There is no greater entrepreneur in the entire world than Elon Musk. We are so proud he calls Texas home." That statement says it all. The bond between Elon Musk, SpaceX, and Texas isn't just about location. It's a calculated partnership built on mutual benefit and a shared appetite for bold innovation. Meanwhile, over in California, Governor Gavin Newsom might still be telling himself, well, at least SpaceX didn't completely leave. But let's be honest, when a company moves its headquarters, its momentum, and its long-term vision somewhere else, it's not just about mailing addresses anymore. Some say Musk's decision was sparked by his opposition to California's AB 1955, a bill that would prevent schools from notifying parents about a student's gender identity changes. So, was that really the only reason? Of course not. Musk standing up for parental rights has nothing to do with building and launching rockets. The real reason for the move? It's all about money and politics. Sure, taxes were a big part of it, but they weren't the only hurdle. California's strict regulations on the environment, labor, and workplace safety have driven operational costs through the roof. Take 2024. For example, the California Fish and Wildlife Commission shut down SpaceX's plan to increase launch frequency at Vandenberg, all due to environmental concerns. And that's not all. In Hawthorne, SpaceX has been hit with lawsuits over pollution. All of this doesn't just slow things down, it makes it harder for Musk to scale. For a guy trying to launch humans to Mars, endless red tape is more than just a headache. It's a deal breaker. Speaking virtually at a 2022 conference in Miami, Musk, a businessman overflowing with big ideas, didn't hold back his frustration with California's political environment, saying it often feels like the state just wants to stop you from doing anything. California used to be the land of opportunity, he said, but now it's become the land of taxes, overregulation, and litigation, and that's not a good situation. This wasn't just a random complaint. It quickly built up by 2020. In May that year, tensions erupted during the pandemic when Alameda County ordered Tesla's Fremont factory to close in an effort to prevent the spread of the virus. Musk called the order fascist on Twitter and reopened the factory, defying the local government. Musk sued Alameda County, demanding the lifting of the lockdown, and threatened to move Tesla's entire operation to Texas or Nevada. He tweeted, "Tesla will now move its HQ and future programs to Texas, Nevada immediately." This marked the first time Musk publicly threatened to leave California, deepening the rift with the state government. While Tesla didn't immediately move, this incident set the stage for future conflicts. Yes, it wasn't just about rules and regulations. Politics played a big part too. And let's be honest, Elon Musk has never been shy when it comes to politics. He used to back Democrats like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. But around 2020, something shifted. Musk started leaning right, publicly supporting Donald Trump, and even pledging to spend $45 million a month on Trump's super PASI in 2024. That obviously didn't sit well with the progressive leadership in California, a state dominated by Democrats. Musk didn't hold back either. He openly slammed California as a one-party socialist state and even called Governor Gavin Newsom the Joker on X. Newsom isn't one to back down either. He directly took a jab at Elon Musk, publicly posting, "You bent the knee," implying Musk's submission to Trump, especially after Musk had supported Trump following Trump's criticism of him in 2022. Newsom's comment hinted that Musk's actions were driven more by political interests, supporting Trump, rather than business or moral reasons related to AB 1955. Musk then directly commented on Newsom's post, saying, "You never get off your knees," mocking him and implying that Newsom constantly submits to political pressure or progressive policies. Unbelievable. Not 10 launches, not 20 launches, but up to 25 Starship launches per year from Starbase alone. The FAA has just declared this information, demonstrating an unprecedented number of launches for a super heavy rocket that will shock the entire world this very year. After a lengthy review process, federal authorities have officially granted SpaceX permission to significantly increase its annual launch rate from the Starbase facility in South Texas. Previously limited to just 5 launches per year, the company can now conduct up to 25 Starship launches and landings within a single calendar year. This decision follows the FAA's completion of a comprehensive programmatic environmental assessment, PEA, which concluded with a mitigated finding of no significant impact, FONSI. In practical terms, this means that the proposed expansion doesn't pose major environmental concerns that would require a more rigorous environmental impact statement. It's a clear win for SpaceX, as it avoids further regulatory delays. The FAA has determined that the proposed action is a reasonable, feasible, practicable, and prudent alternative for a federal decision in light of the established goals and objectives, the agency stated. To be clear, approving a higher launch frequency hasn't come without scrutiny. Concerns about the environmental impact on the surrounding area and local communities have persisted throughout the review. As a result, the FAA's approval includes a detailed list of conditions, some carried over from prior approvals, others newly introduced. Among these, particular attention has been given to wastewater discharge from SpaceX's Launch Deluge system, especially after allegations that the system had been used without the necessary permits. The FAA also examined how the increased activity could affect local fish, wildlife, and the broader ecosystem, as well as water and resource availability for residents of Brownsville and nearby areas. One key question was whether greater water usage might impact local supply. The assessment found no cause for concern. According to the report, while water use for launches would increase by 10.27 million gallons annually, this represents only 0.1% of the city of Brownsville's 2018 usage and remains well within capacity. The FAA's decision followed a robust public comment period, which included 2 in-person meetings in Brownsville, Texas, and 1 virtual session back in January. In total, the FAA received over 12,300 public comments on the draft environmental assessment. During the virtual hearing Ngai 13 Thong 1, a majority of participants voiced opposition to certain proposals, particularly the idea of landing Starship in the Pacific Ocean near Hawaii, something SpaceX has never attempted. Though such landings would likely be rare, the final assessment clarified that any such operations would occur outside Hawaii's 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone and include buffer zones around marine national monuments. The environmental review for Starbase is just one of several ongoing assessments concerning SpaceX's new or expanded launch activities across the United States. Earlier this year, in March, the FAA approved an increase in Falcon 9 launches from Vandenberg Space Force Base, raising the cap from 36 to 50 launches per year. Meanwhile, the Department of the Air Force is currently reviewing a proposal to boost that limit even further, to as many as 100 launches annually from both SLC-4 and SLC-6. At Cape Canaveral, additional environmental assessments are underway. One review covers Falcon 9 launches from SLC-40 with a virtual public meeting scheduled for May 8th. Separate evaluations are being conducted for Starship launches at Kennedy Space Center's LC-39A and Cape Canaveral's SLC-37, the latter of which could be refurbished or replaced with a brand new SLC-50. Now that SpaceX has secured environmental clearance, the company is better positioned than ever to accelerate the Starship program at a far more ambitious scale. And that scale could exceed 100 launches per year from Florida alone. It's easy to forget just how high these launch numbers are, especially with all eyes currently on the Starship test flights at Starbase. But let's take a moment to put things in perspective. Last year, SpaceX proposed as many as 44 Starship launches annually from Launch Complex 39A. But that's not where it ends. The company has even more ambitious plans for a second nearby launch site, Space Launch Complex 37, SLC-37, at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. During a series of public meetings in March 2024, SpaceX revealed plans to launch Starship up to 76 times per year from SLC-37. That would bring the total to potentially 120 Starship launches annually within just a 6-mile stretch of Florida's coastline. To be fair, achieving such a high cadence won't be easy. But if there's one thing SpaceX has proven time and again, it's that determination, rapid iteration, and a relentless drive for progress can make the seemingly impossible possible. After all, SpaceX has always defied conventional limits through innovation and sheer willpower. Still, not every obstacle is within their control. One of the biggest challenges may come from legal and political friction, particularly from rivals. Two of the biggest names in the U.S. aerospace sector, Blue Origin and United Launch Alliance ULA, have publicly voiced their objections. While public comments for SLC-37 haven't been released yet, comments on LC-39A have, and they're telling. Both companies raise concerns about how such a high flight rate could disrupt other launch providers with infrastructure at Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral. Just one Starship launch site is likely to disrupt other launch operations in the area and cause significant environmental impacts, as discussed in detail below. The impacts are certain to be amplified if coming from two launch sites in such close proximity, ULA said in its filing. For example, SpaceX intends to conduct up to 44 launches per year from LC-39A. If SpaceX aims for a comparable number at SLC-37, that would lead to nearly 100 launches per year, or one every 3 days or so, the statement continued. Blue Origin, for its part, submitted a list of suggested mitigation measures that made one thing clear. It views the expansion of Starship operations as a zero-sum game. Among the proposals was a recommendation that SpaceX, or the government, be required to compensate third parties for any commercial disruptions caused by Starship. It's hard to see this as anything other than an attempt to slow down SpaceX's momentum for the sake of competitive advantage. But then again, this wouldn't be the first time Blue Origin has leaned on tactics rather than technology. Of course, SpaceX isn't one to back down. The company has built its reputation by proving doubters wrong and letting results speak for themselves. While it's true that SpaceX has already surpassed Blue Origin in many areas, the latter still appears unwilling to accept that reality and remains fixated on catching up. Perhaps the clearest sign of that ambition is Blue Origin's upcoming debut of its New Glenn rocket. In an obvious move to challenge SpaceX's dominance, the company has targeted a first-stage landing capability from the outset, an effort to compete directly with Falcon 9 and join the coveted arena of reusable launch vehicles. After all, reusability is the holy grail of cost reduction in the launch industry. Every serious space company now has it on the roadmap, and Starship represents the next giant leap in that direction. But once Starship achieves full reusability, New Glenn may already look like yesterday's news. With such potential soon to enter the market, it's time to prepare for Starship's impact on the space economy. The full reusability of Starship will dramatically reduce launch costs. That means it's possible to consider new types of activity in space that simply were not viable technologically or were too expensive with past launch architecture. Most of the envisaged applications are civilian, but possible military applications include launching surveillance and other satellites far more cheaply, and therefore in greater numbers, and even urgent delivery of large payloads across Earth with suborbital flights. Once SpaceX achieves the capability for one Starship to take fuel from others in orbit, A single mission will be able to deliver up to 100 metric tons or 100 people to the Moon, to Mars, and potentially beyond. The cost of launch matters. Only the first stage of SpaceX's existing Falcon launcher returns for reuse. Yet that rocket has driven launch costs down to $2,720 per kilogram from the $25,000 per kilogram that users paid for NASA space shuttle flights. The total cost of a Falcon launch is about $67 million. Because no hardware will be lost on a Starship flight, the only costs will be fuel, maintenance, and use of the pad. Use $10 million or less per launch for a future Starship version. And, according to SpaceX, CEO Elon Musk eventually $2 million to use $3 million. That suggests a launch cost of $100 to $200 per kilogram. Compare this with NASA's Space Launch System SLS rockets, which will be fully expended on each mission, except for their Orion crew capsules. They will initially cost $4 billion per launch and may end up around $2.5 billion. NASA will launch only one SLS per year, at best. Starship's capacity means it will be able to launch large numbers of satellites on each mission, further reducing cost and rapidly deploying mega constellations, such as Starlink. Alternatively, it will be able to carry very large payloads into orbit, as much as 200 metric tons in a future version of Starship. At its Boca Chica launch site in Texas, SpaceX is establishing what it calls the Star Factory, an assembly line that will be able to build a Starship a week, up from 3 a year now. With 2 more launch sites at Cape Canaveral, there is a suggestion of up to 44 flights a year from this location. Add in the launch facilities at Boca Chica, and the launch rate can exceed that of Falcon 9, currently 1 every 2.7 days. Low cost, high payload to orbit, and a fast launch cadence open up new opportunities for radically different purposes, particularly when in-orbit refueling is proven. The most important role for Starship is supporting NASA's Artemis program to get humans back to the Moon in preparation for human missions to Mars. SpaceX is developing a special lunar landing version of Starship. Musk has suggested flying uncrewed Starships to Mars by 2026, and potentially crewed missions there by 2028, with his goal being the establishment of a permanent human presence on the planet's surface. Low-cost launches by Starship could also support a permanent human presence on the Moon that could then establish an in-space economy and manufacturing capability based on the use of lunar resources. All indications are that the Moon has substantial ice deposits in its regolith around the South Pole, where humans will land first. If the water can be used for a base and in making rocket fuel for Starship launches from weak lunar gravity, the Moon will become a launch pad for exploration and resource exploitation across the inner solar system. That's more important than Mars colonization in the coming decades. Another option will be large commercial space platforms to replace the International Space Station at the end of its life in 2030. Robotic space manufacturing using lunar resources and 3D printing would create the possibility of an in-space industry that could foster technological innovation in the 2030s and 40s. Starship's promise of low cost and frequent space access opens up this new golden era of space exploration and resource exploitation. What can we expect from Starship's new launch system? SpaceX has ushered in a new era for Starship by completing its launch tower. Now, attention turns to other key components, particularly the new launch mount, OLM. Why are OLM's new upgrades notable? And how will these changes impact Starship's operations? Building a new launch system is a significant step forward for SpaceX, marking a major milestone in the development of Starship and its supporting infrastructure. As time goes on, SpaceX's commitment to advancing its space exploration goals is becoming increasingly evident. The new launch tower is a critical milestone, signaling that SpaceX is preparing for a new era of more frequent and complex launches. However, what's even more noteworthy is that the Launchpad system, including the Orbital Launch Mount, OLM, is undergoing a revolutionary upgrade that promises to transform support for frequent and intricate space flights. The OLM serves as the foundational support system for Starship during and prior to launch. Its function extends beyond just providing stability. It also facilitates fueling, pre-flight preparations, and safety protocols, making it an essential component in SpaceX's mission to revolutionize space travel. Initially, the OLM at Pad B appeared to be a mobile block, but recent welding activity by SpaceX underneath the pad suggests that the OLM is now positioned as a fixed structure. It has a square design with a multi-level configuration. Level 1 consists of the supporting structure and internal piping. Level 2 houses the holding arms, clamps, and support hardware. And Level 3 features a water-cooled steel plate on the top surface of the OLM. This water-cooled steel plate is similar to the one currently used at Pad A, but in this case, it is located on the very top of the OLM. This fixed configuration enhances stability and durability, eliminating the complexities of mobility and reducing wear from the extreme forces generated by Starship's 33 Raptor engines. The bolt patterns on its support columns suggest modularity, allowing for easier repairs or upgrades compared to Pad A's more monolithic design, which complicates maintenance after launch-induced damage. A key advantage of Pad B's OLM is its integration with a fully in-ground W-shaped flame trench, a stark contrast to Pad A's elevated design that lacks a true trench. The flame trench, inspired by Apollo-era systems, features 2 exhaust exits and a flame bucket with steel pipes that spray water to suppress sound and protect infrastructure. This setup diverts exhaust away from the pad, significantly reducing debris, scatter a major issue during Pad A's early launches, such as the April 2023 orbital flight that damaged the pad and surrounding areas. The water-cooled steel deck on Pad B's OLM further mitigates thermal loads, enhancing durability over Pad A's less advanced water deluge system, which struggles with heat management. The flame trench and advanced cooling systems reduce acoustic and thermal impacts, addressing regulatory concerns raised after Pad A's noisy, debris-heavy launches. The tank farm's grass vent exhaust system, which redirects excess propellant into a duct with powerful fans, enhances safety and minimizes environmental disruption. These improvements ensure Pad B can operate with fewer regulatory hurdles, unlike Pad A, which prompted environmental reviews. Additionally, the OLM's design lessons are informing upgrades to Pad A and new pads, such as at Kennedy Space Center's LC-39A, ensuring a standardized, high-performance launch infrastructure for SpaceX's future. Pad B's OLM is also optimized for catching operations, particularly for the upper stage, giving it a unique advantage over Pad A. The orbital launch and integration tower, all at 3 at Pad B, features redesigned chopsticks arms, with a narrower edge along the landing rails, specifically engineered to catch the Starship upper stage potentially as early as Flight 9. While the chopsticks at Pad A have successfully caught super heavy boosters, e.g., Flights 5, 7, and 8, they are less suited for catching the upper stage. This dual catching capability allows SpaceX to dedicate Pad B to catching operations, while Pad A focuses on launches, streamlining the reuse process and supporting rapid turnaround for SpaceX's lunar and Martian ambitions. Additionally, Pad B is conducting its largest ever test on the launch tower by attaching up to 14 water bags, weighing up to 910 tons, to the chopstick arm. It's insane. And as Elon Musk mentioned earlier, this weight could be increased in the future with even larger water bags. The OLM at Pad B benefits from an upgraded propellant loading system that enhances pre-launch efficiency. With larger diameter feed lines and additional vaporizers, Pad B can fuel Starship in 30 to 40 minutes, significantly faster than Pad A's modified but less optimized system. This capability, along with the proactive incorporation of lessons learned from early Pad A failures such as inadequate concrete strength and a retrofitted water deluge system, ensures that Pad B's OLM minimizes delays, reduces maintenance costs, and supports SpaceX's goal of frequent and reliable Starship launches. By addressing environmental concerns and improving infrastructure resilience, the OLM is a critical step toward making Starship the backbone of space exploration. As of now, Pad B's OLM is installed and nearing operational readiness, with ongoing work on the tank farm and tower components. It is poised to support Starship Flight 9, potentially involving a booster or ship catch, as the chopsticks are fully functional. The The fixed OLM's durability, efficiency, safety, and reusability make it a cornerstone of SpaceX's Starbase operations, offering a production-ready platform that outperforms Pad A's more experimental design. Naturally, a more practical and efficient design is not only being developed at Starbase, but is also being brought to Florida by SpaceX. Back in 2022, SpaceX built a complete launch tower with Mechazilla arms at Launch Complex 39A, followed by a tank farm and an OLM modeled after Pad A. However, last year the legs of the Florida OLM were suddenly dismantled, signaling a complete redesign. It became clear that SpaceX would implement a new flame trench system at LC-39A, similar to the one at Massey and Pad B at Starbase. Recently, we've seen images showing trenches being dug next to the Starship tower at LC-39A, right where the old OLM once stood. This indicates that Florida is following the same construction sequence, digging the trench, laying a concrete foundation, installing components such as flame buckets and trench walls, and finally sealing everything with a top concrete layer. With these upgrades, SpaceX is clearly preparing for powerful, high-frequency Starship launches on both coasts. To support this entire setup, SpaceX is also constructing an advanced tank farm nearby. In addition to storing liquid methane and liquid oxygen, the facility will include large water tanks to cool the flame trench during launches. This water will help absorb and disperse the immense energy and pressure generated by Starship's engines, reducing the risk of structural damage. The flame trench system is especially critical because it's designed to withstand the tremendous forces of a Starship launch. Starship currently uses the Super Heavy booster with 33 Raptor engines, generating over 7,000 tons of thrust. To manage this immense power, the Florida flame trench will use a dual flame bucket configuration, an innovation that doubles the system's capacity to deflect heat and force. This design promises greater durability and reliability compared to the water-cooled steel plate system currently used at Pad A, which has shown signs of wear after multiple launches. Far from a short-term fix, the flame trench at LC-39A is being built for long-term, high-frequency use. The system at the Massey test site has already demonstrated the effectiveness of this design, successfully supporting static fires lasting nearly a minute. That's an impressive benchmark and a strong sign that the new system in Florida will be capable of handling even greater demands. And those demands are arriving quickly. While the current version of Starship, V1, is already powerful, SpaceX is actively developing more advanced variants, including V2 and V3. These future models may incorporate next-generation Raptor 3 engines, pushing total liftoff thrust beyond 9,000 tons. Some internal documents, including filings with the FAA, even suggest experimental versions of Starship could exceed 10,000 tons of thrust by increasing the number of engines. These major upgrades, combined with SpaceX's plans to launch up to 44 times per year from Florida, make the flame trench system an essential part of the infrastructure. In addition to the flame trench, SpaceX has revealed plans to further improve the Florida launch complex. These changes include building a new catch tower, potentially enabling full booster and ship recovery at the site, and the possibility of drone ship landings. These upgrades aim to make Starship launches from Florida as comprehensive and frequent as possible. Looking ahead, it's possible that Florida's upgraded launch system will be operational by the end of this year. If testing goes well, we could see the first launches from this site by mid-2026. These early missions may include propellant transfer tests and the debut of the uncrewed Starship HLS variant, which is a key component of NASA's Artemis program. But launch infrastructure isn't the only thing SpaceX is expanding in Florida. Plans are already underway to expand the Roberts Road facility, transforming it into a major Starship manufacturing hub. SpaceX has cleared 43 acres to build a potential Starship gigafactory, with plans for a 1.5 million square foot complex. Unlike Starbase, which focuses on testing, LC-39A is designed for operational missions, including NASA's Artemis lunar program and up to 44 commercial launches annually, leveraging the site's heritage from the Apollo and Space Shuttle eras. However, expanding Starship operations to Florida brings significant challenges. The region's porous soil and high water table complicate construction, especially for deep foundations like the flame trench. SpaceX must also navigate regulatory hurdles and ensure that Falcon 9 missions are not disrupted. Competitors such as Blue Origin and United Launch Alliance have raised concerns about safety and environmental risks, especially with the rocket's 5,200 tons of liquid methane and its potential impact on local wildlife. Currently, SpaceX is making rapid progress in building its launch infrastructure. While the new OLM system may take more time, as SpaceX gains more experience, construction speed will likely accelerate at future launch sites. This is also the time when SpaceX is considering building multiple robust launch towers. As development advances, both Starbase and other launch sites will need to expand. More towers will be needed to support an increasing number of launches, with a near-term goal of 25 flights in the next few years, and potentially thousands more in the distant future. Catching operations will also ramp up, as both Starship and Super Heavy require numerous launch sites. SpaceX may need to take over or construct new launch complexes to meet these demands. These will form the essential foundation for the critical missions Starship is set to undertake in the future. In the near term, SpaceX may focus on developing a refueling system. As we know, long-duration journeys require a massive amount of fuel, and Starship tanker variants may need to be very large to meet that demand. Having multiple robust launch platforms will be vital for this. The world is eagerly awaiting the Artemis 3 mission, which could happen in about 2 years, and SpaceX and NASA are getting closer to making it happen. The goal is clear: return to the moon before China and establish permanent bases there. After that, Mars becomes the next target. According to this plan, SpaceX will need to launch up to 10 missions, each carrying 200 tons of cargo, to deliver 1 million tons to Mars over the next 10 years. Ambitious plans have been laid out, including the first spacecraft reaching Mars within 2 years, humans landing there within 4 years, and a Martian city being built within 20 years. These massive goals will require an even more powerful spacecraft, and that means even more powerful launch platforms will be necessary. SpaceX's past test flights have opened the door to many possibilities for Starship. Numerous missions lie ahead, and it will all begin with an incredibly capable Launchpad. Only such a powerful launch system can lift our massive rocket and achieve the impossible. The plans are evolving, and we are excited to see SpaceX amaze us once again. The Raptor engine remains the holy grail for Starship rocket development, and especially Raptor 3, the latest version of SpaceX's engine, is currently making waves in the space community, promising to be the key to unlocking greater power and rapid reusability for Starship. Recently, the company revealed its 20th Raptor 3, showcasing an incredible production pace for an engine still in the testing phase. So, how insane is SpaceX's Raptor production speed? And how has SpaceX managed to accomplish this manufacturing breakthrough? As the Starship program continues to grow, with more frequent launches and ongoing upgrades to all of SpaceX's hardware, this is the time we should really start paying attention to how the company plans to meet the increasing demand for Raptor engine production. Naturally, this rising pace wouldn't be especially noteworthy if we hadn't just spotted a brand new Raptor 3 engine at the test facility in Texas. The engine, clearly marked, is a Raptor 3 with serial number 20. Not long ago, another Raptor 3 engine with serial number 16 was also seen entering the testing area. Observing both engines indicates that SpaceX has produced at least 20 Raptor 3 units since the first one was spotted on August 3, 2024. Over this 9-month period, the average production rate is about 2 to 4 engines per month, with signs of slight acceleration recently possibly reaching a rate of 1 engine per week. We can recognize this as a slow pace compared to what SpaceX accomplished with Raptor 2. In fact, back in November 2022, the company hit peak production of over 1 engine per day, accumulating a stockpile of more than 200 engines in under a year. That's a very real and accurate comparison. But let's not forget that Raptor 3 is still in its early testing phase and is being upgraded and verified through each test cycle to eventually surpass the performance of the currently mass-produced Raptor 2. Raptor 3 offers major advancements over Raptor 2, including 280 tons of thrust, up from 230 tons, a lighter dry mass of 1,525 kilograms, and a simplified design that eliminates the heat shield thanks to integrated cooling and additive manufacturing. These improvements, while promising long-term production benefits, can introduce early manufacturing challenges that contribute to the current low output. So it's no surprise that production is slower than Raptor 2. Moreover, the simplified structure of Raptor 3 actually makes it more difficult to build. Simple in appearance, but not in execution, right? Don't hesitate to share your thoughts on Raptor 3 production in the comments section. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to get new videos every day. With Raptor 3, the first priority for SpaceX engineers is a deep testing regime to ensure long-term reliability for a reusable design, limiting the number of units produced at this stage. Secondly, the engine's advanced features like integrated flow paths and heavy reliance on 3D printing may require time to fine-tune manufacturing processes. Third, SpaceX's strategic shift towards sustainable launch systems reduces the urgency for a large engine stockpile, since reusable vehicles require fewer replacements. Finally, while the McGregor facility supports mass production, current output is still aligned more with test demands than operational needs. Elon Musk has made it clear that Raptor 3 is central to future scaling efforts, but for now, production remains in the prep phase. Looking ahead, Raptor 3 production is likely to ramp up once its design is validated through testing, and SpaceX begins integrating it into operations potentially with Starship 5.2 or Booster 18. SpaceX's ability to scale rapidly has already been proven with Raptor 2. By the end of 2022, the McGregor site could produce 800 to 1,000 Raptor 2 engines per year, roughly 2 to 3 per day, recovering from the production crisis of 2021 that once threatened Starship's timeline. This gives us confidence that Raptor 3 production will eventually ramp up to levels even beyond what the company achieved with Raptor 2. So, how can SpaceX be so confident in speeding up engine production and even full rocket hardware production? What technologies are they using to make such insane progress? Well, that's 3D printing manufacturing technology. 3D printing, or additive manufacturing, allows SpaceX to transcend the limitations of traditional subtractive manufacturing, e.g., machining, and formative processes, e.g., casting or forging. By building components layer by layer, engineers can create intricate geometries tailored to the specific demands of rocket propulsion. For example, the Raptor engine's turbopumps, which handle the high-pressure flow of liquid methane and oxygen, rely on complex internal passages to optimize fluid dynamics. These passages, often featuring nonlinear or curved pathways, are printed directly into the component, eliminating the need for multiple parts to be welded or bolted together. This capability is particularly critical for the Raptor's regeneratively cooled nozzle and combustion chamber. The engine uses cryogenic propellants to absorb heat from the chamber walls, requiring intricate cooling channels that maximize heat transfer while maintaining structural integrity under extreme thermal and pressure loads. Such designs not only enhance reliability, but also improve thermal efficiency, allowing the Raptor to achieve its high specific impulse, up to approximately 380 seconds in vacuum for Raptor vacuum variants. One of the most transformative aspects of 3D printing for SpaceX is its impact on development speed. Traditional rocket engine development often spans a decade or more due to the time-intensive processes of designing, tooling, and testing components. In contrast, 3D printing allows SpaceX to produce functional prototypes in days or weeks, enabling a test-driven development cycle. Engineers can design a component, print it, test it under real-world conditions, and then refine the design based on performance data, all within a compressed time frame. This rapid iteration is central to SpaceX's agile engineering approach. For example, the Raptor engine has evolved through multiple iterations, Raptor 1, Raptor 2, and now Raptor 3, each incorporating lessons learned from testing and operational flights. Raptor 3, announced as a lighter, more efficient, and higher thrust version, reportedly eliminates external plumbing and simplifies the design, achievements made possible by 3D printing's ability to integrate complex features directly into components. The Raptor engine's performance hinges on its ability to maximize thrust while minimizing mass, and 3D printing plays a pivotal role in achieving this balance. Additive manufacturing allows SpaceX to use topology optimization and generative design software to create components with ideal strength-to-weight ratios. These tools analyze the mechanical stresses and thermal loads on a part and generate designs that place material only where it's needed, often resulting in organic, lattice-like structures that are both lightweight and robust. For instance, 3D printed components in the Raptor engine, such as injector heads or structural brackets, may feature internal lattice structures that reduce mass while maintaining rigidity. Variable wall thicknesses can also be printed to reinforce high-stress areas without adding unnecessary bulk. This level of precision is critical for a rocket engine, where even small reductions in mass can significantly increase payload capacity or delta V, change in velocity, for interplanetary missions like those planned for Mars. Moreover, 3D printing minimizes material waste compared to traditional methods. Subtractive manufacturing often involves cutting away large portions of a metal block, generating scrap that must be recycled or discarded. In contrast, additive manufacturing uses only the material required to build the part, plus minimal support structures, making it more cost-effective and environmentally sustainable. For high-cost aerospace alloys like Inconel or titanium, which are commonly used in the Raptor due to their high temperature and corrosion resistance, this efficiency translates into significant savings. SpaceX's use of 3D printing extends beyond design flexibility to include advancements in material science. The Raptor engine operates under extreme conditions. Combustion chamber pressures exceed 300 bar, and temperatures can reach thousands of degrees Celsius. To withstand these environments, SpaceX employs advanced metal alloys and superalloys, such as nickel-based Inconel, which are well suited for additive manufacturing. 3D printing techniques like selective laser melting (SLM) or electron beam melting (EBM) allow precise control over the microstructure of these materials. SpaceX has also invested heavily in developing in-house 3D printing capabilities, reducing dependence on external vendors and enabling tighter integration between design and production. By operating its own industrial-grade 3D printers, SpaceX can experiment with custom alloys and printing parameters tailored to the Raptor's needs. This expertise has led to innovations like the Super Draco thruster engines used in the Dragon spacecraft, integration with other advanced manufacturing techniques. While 3D printing is a cornerstone of SpaceX's manufacturing strategy, it is complemented by other advanced techniques that enhance the Raptor's development. For example, computer numerical control (CNC) machining is still used for components requiring ultra-precise tolerances or surface finishes that 3D printing cannot yet achieve. Friction stir welding, another advanced technique, is employed to join large structural components, such as the Starship's stainless steel airframe, with minimal defects. Additionally, SpaceX leverages digital twin technology and simulation-driven design to optimize 3D printed components before they are built. Computational fluid dynamics (CFD) and finite element analysis (FEA) simulations predict how a component will perform under the Raptor's extreme operating conditions, allowing engineers to refine designs virtually. This reduces the number of physical prototypes needed and ensures that printed parts meet stringent performance and safety requirements. Broader implications for reusability and cost reduction. The Raptor engine is designed for reusability, a core pillar of SpaceX's mission to make space travel affordable. By minimizing maintenance and refurbishment needs, 3D printing contributes to SpaceX's goal of rapid turnaround between Starship launches. Cost reduction is another critical outcome. Traditional rocket engines, like those used in the Space Shuttle or Saturn V, were prohibitively expensive due to labor-intensive manufacturing and long lead times. By contrast, 3D printing allows SpaceX to produce Raptor components at a fraction of the cost, with some estimates suggesting that 3D printed parts can be up to 50% cheaper than conventionally manufactured equivalents. This cost efficiency, combined with the engine's reusability, supports SpaceX's vision of reducing launch costs to as low as $2 million per Starship flight, a dramatic improvement over traditional expendable rockets. Despite its advantages, 3D printing for aerospace applications is not without challenges. The technology requires rigorous quality assurance to ensure that printed parts meet the stringent standards of spaceflight. Microscopic defects, such as voids or incomplete fusion, can compromise a component's performance under the Raptor's extreme conditions. SpaceX addresses this through advanced non-destructive testing, e.g., X-ray or ultrasonic inspection, and by refining printing processes to achieve consistent material properties. Looking ahead, SpaceX's expertise in 3D printing could unlock further innovations. For example, in situ resource utilization, ISRU, on Mars, could involve 3D printing replacement parts or infrastructure using local materials, reducing reliance on Earth-based supply chains. The company's ongoing collaboration with organizations like NASA may also drive the development of new 3D printing techniques tailored to deep space exploration. However, as additive manufacturing technology advances, with larger printers and faster build rates, SpaceX is likely to expand its use for high-volume production. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in.